Why do teams celebrate 10th place in Formula One like a podium? Why would drivers risk everything for 8th, even when a win is out of reach? In Formula One, every race position is essential. Even small results often play a significant role in determining a team's future. This includes everything from championship standings to prize money distribution. This video explains how points are awarded, how the standings work, and why each finishing spot matters. By the end, you will be able to figure out why, unlike most other sports, Formula One is not only about who finishes first, but about who consistently scores. Every Formula One Grand Prix awards points to the top 10 finishers. The winner earns 25 points, second place receives 18, and third place gets 15. The rest follow in smaller increments: 12, 10, 8, 6, 4, 2, and 1 point for 10th place. Anyone finishing outside the top 10 receives 0. That single point for 10th might not seem important, but it can become a tiebreaker or determine whether a team moves up or down in the standings. Consistency counts in a sport where the calendar extends over 20 races or more. Until 2024, one bonus point was awarded for the fastest lap, but only if the driver finished in the top 10. That rule was removed for the 2025 season. The point is no longer awarded, regardless of lap time or finishing position. Presently, some race weekends include a sprint, which is a shorter Saturday race held over 1/3 of the usual distance. In these events, the top 8 finishers score additional points. The winner earns 8 points, and it decreases by 1 point per position down to 8th place, which receives 1 point. Sprint races points are added to the drivers' and constructors' totals. A strong sprint performance can help teams and drivers build propulsion, especially when the standings are tight. These formats give teams quite a few chances per weekend to influence their position in the championship. Each Formula One season tracks 2 leaderboards. One ranks the drivers individually, the other tallies how teams perform across both cars. Whoever has the most at the end of the season is declared world champion. In some years, the gap between first and second turns out to be wide. In others, the title comes down to a single race or even a single lap. Even when the title seems out of reach, every point still counts. What the team ends up with depends on how both drivers finish. That said, their points are simply added together. On the other side of the spectrum, the team championship works differently. Every team runs 2 cars, and both drivers' points go into one total. That number decides where the team sits in the standings. For example, if one driver finishes 4th and the other finishes 6th, the team takes home 20 points from that race, 12 and 8 respectively. This format shows that both drivers' contributions are equal in the team's success. Sometimes, one driver crashes out or finishes low, but the team still gets whatever the other car brings home. However, teams that regularly score with both cars tend to stay in the mix. The constructors table decides how much each team gets paid. Finishing 8th instead of 9th might not sound like much, but it can change how a team plans for the next season. Well, so, Formula One makes money from broadcasting rights, sponsorship deals, race hosting fees, and commercial partnerships. Each year, a portion of that income, estimated at around $2.5 billion, is distributed among the teams. The size of each team's share depends mainly on its final position in the Constructors' Championship. Unsurprisingly, higher-ranked teams bag a greater percentage of the total pool. However, F1 hasn't ever disclosed the exact breakdown publicly. From analysts' guesses and reports' hints, it's understood that the first-place team gets around 13 or 14%. Likewise, the team in 10th might receive 6% or less. The difference between 7th and 8th, or 8th and 9th, can amount to several $1 million. For top teams, that might be one part of a larger budget. On the other hand, for in the midfield or near the bottom teams, that difference can fund more wind tunnel time, simulator upgrades, or staffing decisions. Formula One introduced a cost cap in 2021 to help control spending across teams. It allows around $135 million for on-track performance expenses. However, though the cap is there, teams need prize money to operate day to day. After all, there are quite a few liabilities, including salaries, transport equipment, and supporting future development. It's worth noting that the money won never goes to the drivers. In actuality, it's paid to the teams. What drivers earn comes from their contracts. Some have bonuses, some don't. The payout from the championship is used to keep the team running and pay off liabilities like salaries, travel, upgrades. There have been seasons where a single point has simply changed millions in prize distribution. For example, in 2021, Alfa Romeo and Williams were separated by just a handful of points heading into the final rounds. A 10th place finish or a late retirement could change the payout and the financial picture heading into the next year. These battles at the back of the grid are rarely talked about during broadcast coverage, but they are important. So important that they influence technical investment, team morale, and leadership decisions. So, to summarize, the F1 points system rewards performance across the grid. 10 drivers score in every race. The extra points from sprint races and the importance of consistency all combinedly influence season-long outcomes. Every point helps shape the drivers' and constructors' standings. For drivers, that affects reputation and career direction. Contrarily, for teams, it affects budgets, staffing, and the next season's development scope. Also, remember, instead of individual wins, the prize money is tied to team results, and that money makes a difference. It helps teams stay competitive, attract sponsors, and fund new technologies. That's why finishing 8th instead of 9th can matter as much to a team as winning a race does for a driver. So when a driver fights for 10th and the team celebrates, it's never an exaggeration. It should be seen as the recognition of how Formula One works. Well, that's the story behind the numbers. For more updates and deeper dives into F1's details, stick around.